Could a seemingly innocent gift from your mother-in-law ever turn into a weapon? Because for me, a beautiful box of gourmet chocolates almost became the end of everything I held dear. And the twisted, horrifying part? My husband ate them all. What the hell happened next? It all started, as so many things did, with a call from Patricia. Every time my mother-in-law's name flashed on Thomas's phone, I just knew trouble was brewing. He was in the living room, casually scrolling. "Honey, message from Mom," he called out. I was in my home office designing a website and I involuntarily shrugged. 3 years into my marriage, and I still hadn't felt a single ounce of genuine warmth from Patricia. "What does she want?" I asked, not looking up. "She's asking if we want to have dinner at her place next Sunday." "To celebrate your birthday," Thomas replied, his voice bright. I took a deep breath. Patricia could be polite on the surface, but there always seemed to be something hidden, a veiled jab in her words. I looked at Thomas. He was beaming, genuinely pleased. He's a sharp financial analyst, brilliant with numbers, but when it came to his family, especially his mother, he was just blind. Totally, infuriatingly blind. "She's finally started to accept you, Amy," he said, smiling. "She even said the other day, 'Amy's become a good wife.'" I managed to smile back, but inside I scoffed. Good wife? Patricia had treated me like I was the woman who had stolen her precious son since our wedding day. "Is Vanessa coming too?" I asked about Thomas's sister. "Oh, of course," he said casually. "She's been living at Mom's lately." Vanessa, after a string of failed jobs, had moved back home, and her eyes always held this icy glint whenever she looked at me, pure, unadulterated jealousy. "All right," I sighed. "Should we bring anything?" "Nope. Mom says she'll prepare everything." "Oh, and she mentioned she's got a special present for you," Thomas chirped. I forced a smile. I knew what a special present from Patricia meant. Last Christmas, a sweater 3 sizes too small. Easter? A nut-filled cake she knew I was deathly allergic to. Always things she could easily excuse with, "Oh, I just didn't know." That evening, as I cooked dinner, Thomas wrapped his arms around me. "What are you thinking about?" he murmured. "Your mother," I answered honestly, and his face instantly clouded. "Are we starting this again, Amy?" "Mom just wants to get along with you." I bit my tongue. We'd had this conversation 1,000 times. He just couldn't see past her facade, no matter how hard I tried to show him. For Thomas, Patricia was perfect, and if there were any problems, they had to be on my side. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I'm just tired." He kissed me, a gesture of forgiveness, but a flicker of dissatisfaction remained in his eyes. Over the past 3 years, that tension had slowly, subtly grown between us. He used to protect me from his family's interference, but lately, he was being pulled back into their orbit. A few days later, I met my friend Jessica for coffee.
Thomas was golfing.
"You're going to your mother-in-law's again?" Jessica asked, shocked. "Last time, didn't she tell you your cooking had too much salt and she was worried about Thomas's health?" "Yep," I said with a bitter laugh. "But Thomas values his relationship with his mom. Aren't you his family?" Jessica frowned. "He doesn't say anything when Patricia and Vanessa look down on you." I stirred my coffee, thoughtfully. "He doesn't notice. To him, his mother is perfect." Jessica took my hand. "Be careful, Amy. I don't think Patricia truly accepts you." I nodded. I felt it too. The subtle sarcasm, Vanessa's cold stares. But I loved Thomas. I endured it for him. The day before my birthday, Thomas kissed me. "Tomorrow will be a wonderful day." Lying in bed, I hoped he was right. But a deep anxiety churned inside me. I just knew tomorrow's visit would bring new tension. Patricia's false smile, and the true feelings hidden behind it, haunted my sleep. 3 years of small insults and intentional disregard had left their mark. My birthday morning dawned with a clear blue sky. As I made breakfast, the intercom buzzed. "Delivery for you. Refrigerated package." I opened the door and took the box. The sender's name, Patricia Collins. I was genuinely surprised. Patricia? Sending a gift? This felt off. "Thomas, something came from your mother." He walked out of the bathroom, towel-drying his hair, and looked at the package with interest. Must be a birthday present. Let's open it. I carefully unwrapped it. Inside was an elegant black box, Chateau Chocolatey, written in gold. It was Boston's most luxurious chocolate shop. Wow. Mom's being generous. Thomas whistled. These cost over $100 a box. Beautifully arranged chocolates filled the box, with a small card. I picked it up. Specially selected just for you. Patricia's meticulous script. See. Thomas grinned. Mom has finally accepted you. Sending such expensive chocolates. I smiled, but felt a knot of unease. I couldn't shake the feeling. Patricia doesn't just change. Not like this. But seeing Thomas so happy, I couldn't voice my doubts. That's very thoughtful, I said. I'll enjoy them later. All day, I buried myself in work. That evening, Thomas came home early and cooked a special birthday dinner. I relaxed on the sofa, letting the day's fatigue wash over me. Dinner's ready, Thomas called. It was a lovely meal. Thomas toasted my birthday. Happy birthday, my love. I'll be with you forever. Afterward, as he cleaned up, he found the chocolate box. How about some dessert? He opened it, picked one up. This looks delicious. I was full. I'm a bit full now. I'll have some tomorrow. Just one won't hurt, right? He popped it into his mouth. Wow, this is really delicious. I smiled. I'll look forward to trying them tomorrow. Just one more, Thomas murmured, popping another into his mouth. I just smiled, tired, and went to shower. I had no idea. Exhausted. I went to bed early and quickly fell asleep. Thomas stayed up, watching TV, unconsciously eating one chocolate after another. The next morning, I woke up to find Thomas already awake. I went to the kitchen. He was drinking coffee. Good morning, birthday girl. That ended yesterday, I laughed. I think I'll try those chocolates now. I walked into the living room. The empty chocolate box sat on the coffee table. Thomas, did you eat them all? He looked up, sheepish. Yeah. Sorry, honey. They were just so good, and I wasn't even thinking. I felt a pang of disappointment, but it wasn't a huge deal. Well, that's okay. You can buy me more sometime. Just then, my phone rang. Patricia Collins. Oh, it's your mother. I answered. Hello, Patricia. Amy, good morning. Yesterday was your birthday. Congratulations. Her voice was unusually bright. Thank you. And the chocolates arrived. Oh, good. Patricia chirped. How did the chocolates taste? I chose something special. I chuckled. Well, Thomas ate them all. There was a moment of absolute silence on the other end. Then, her voice dropped, shaking. Are you serious? That wasn't just surprise in her voice. That was panic. A cold dread started to creep in. Yes, he ate them all last night, but he said they were delicious. I see, Patricia said, her voice now flat and strange. The conversation ended awkwardly. Right after I hung up, Thomas's cell phone rang. He answered, looking a bit unwell. A few minutes later, he came back into the living room, his face ghostly pale, sweat beading on his forehead. Amy, he choked out, I just got a call from the hospital. I need to go. I feel so sick. He didn't even finish the sentence before he lurched for the bathroom, vomiting violently. With a trembling voice, he said, Call an ambulance. I frantically dialed 911. Thomas's condition deteriorated rapidly. When I touched his forehead, he was burning up. It's okay, Thomas. The ambulance will be here soon. As the ambulance siren began to wail, Thomas's cell phone rang again. It displayed Mom. I didn't answer. A chilling premonition gripped my chest. This wasn't just a stomach bug. The paramedics rushed in, checking Thomas in the bathroom. He's showing severe dehydration. He needs N4 immediately. One paramedic asked, How long has he been showing symptoms? He looked a bit pale when he woke up, but suddenly got much worse. I stammered. Last night he didn't. Then I remembered. The chocolates. Patricia's phone call. Thomas was wheeled out on a stretcher. I rode in the ambulance, holding his hand tightly. Cold sweat plastered his gray face. It's okay, Thomas. We'll be at the hospital soon. At the hospital, Thomas was rushed to treatment. I waited, filling out paperwork. I pulled out my phone. 5 missed calls from Patricia. The phone rang again. Hello? Amy, where is Thomas? Why isn't he answering his phone? Patricia's voice was hysterical. He's in the hospital. He suddenly became very ill. Which hospital? I'm coming right now. I gave her the details and hung up. A strange feeling washed over me. Why was Patricia so panicked? And why right after our chocolate conversation? 30 minutes later, Patricia and Vanessa burst into the waiting room, both distraught. Patricia's face was pure terror. Where is he? Where is my son? She demanded of the receptionist. I stood up. They're treating him. I'm waiting for the doctor. When Patricia saw me, she flinched. What happened? Why so suddenly? I don't know, I said, and then, after a slight pause, added, after he ate your chocolates. The words hung in the air. Both Patricia and Vanessa's faces went utterly, horrifyingly white. They exchanged a quick, furtive glance, and Vanessa bit her lip. Chocolates? Patricia asked, her voice barely a whisper. He ate all of them? I watched their reactions.
Yes.
All of them last night. He wasn't feeling well by morning. Just then, a doctor appeared. Mrs. Collins, we have the initial test results for your husband. We gathered around him. He's showing symptoms of severe food poisoning, but there's a stronger reaction than usual. We're conducting additional tests. Did he eat anything unusual? I remembered the empty box. He ate expensive chocolates last night. The box is at home. The doctor frowned. Could you bring the packaging? It might be necessary for testing. I'll get it. Vanessa suddenly volunteered. Tell me your apartment address. Suspicion gnawed at me, but I gave her the address. Vanessa practically ran out. Doctor, Patricia asked, her voice trembling, is my son going to be all right? We're administering an antidote now, just in case, because the tests are showing some toxin reaction. Toxin. My voice was barely a whisper, then it rose. What are you talking about? The doctor chose his words carefully. We can't be certain yet. However, from the symptoms and initial test results, we believe this isn't ordinary food poisoning. No way, Patricia whispered, collapsing into a chair, looking utterly defeated. 2 hours later, Vanessa returned, without the chocolate box. I couldn't find it, she mumbled. Must have been in the trash. I frowned. Trash. It was on the living room table when I left. At that moment, a man in a plain suit approached. Mrs. Collins, I'm Detective Miller. I'd like to ask you some questions. Police? Patricia's voice trembled. Why? Specific toxins were detected in Thomas Collins's body, he stated. We need to investigate. I touched my cheek with a trembling hand. Toxins? It couldn't be. The detective continued. Have you consumed any special food or drink recently? Last night, expensive chocolates arrived for my mother-in-law, I answered, my voice steady despite my racing heart. And my husband ate them all. The detective's eyes shifted to Patricia. Where did you purchase these chocolates? Patricia's face went white. Chateau chocolatey, but this is a misunderstanding. Is there any packaging or remaining chocolates? He asked. I shook my head. My sister-in-law went to get them, but she said she couldn't find them. The detective looked at Vanessa. You really couldn't find them? Vanessa shifted uneasily in her chair. No, they weren't there. After observing them carefully, the detective said, as a precaution, we'll need to investigate the apartment. I nodded, handing him the keys. I headed to the treatment room to check on Thomas. He was lying weakly, receiving 4 fluids. Amy, he whispered, his lips dry. What happened? We don't know yet, but you'll get better. Don't worry. Under the nurse's watchful eye, I stepped into the hallway. As I walked past a private waiting room, I heard a small voice. And then I heard it. A hushed, frantic whisper from inside the room. Mom, the plan is ruined. It was Vanessa. Be quiet. Patricia's voice, low and furious. She might hear us. My heart stopped. I pressed myself against the cold wall, barely breathing. What happens if the police investigate? Vanessa whimpered. There's no evidence. You got rid of the box, right? Patricia hissed back. Yes, but… Now just pretend you know nothing, Patricia interrupted. Thomas will recover. The amount wasn't enough. My chest felt ice cold. I pushed away from the wall, my legs shaky, and returned to the waiting room. The horrifying truth of what Patricia and Vanessa had tried to do was becoming terrifyingly clear. When the detective returned to the hospital, his expression was stern. We found the chocolate box, he stated, his eyes fixed on Patricia. From the trash can. It's at the lab. The color of fear spread across Patricia and Vanessa's faces. And we also found another box, Miss Collins, he continued, turning to Vanessa. In the trunk of your car. Vanessa tried to stand up, but another officer gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Patricia Collins, Vanessa Collins, you're under arrest for suspicion of attempted murder. I stood stunned. I couldn't accept it. They tried to poison Thomas. Or, more likely, originally intended to poison me. Why? I choked out, my voice barely a whisper. Patricia just stared at me, her eyes colder than ice. We won't let someone like you have Thomas. He's our family. The hospital corridor was cold. I sat in a plastic chair, clutching a coffee cup with trembling hands. Hours passed. Thomas was stable, sleeping in the ICU. The dangerous period seemed to have passed. I closed my tired eyes, and it suddenly clicked. All those unexplained illnesses since I married Thomas, the headaches, the nausea, especially after visiting Patricia's house. It wasn't stress. It was them. My phone rang. Jessica. Amy, are you okay? I saw on the news that your husband was rushed to the hospital because of poisoning. I explained everything. Jessica, who worked at a law firm, listened calmly. What are the police saying? They're questioning Patricia and Vanessa on suspicion of attempted murder. Apparently, traces of arsenic were detected in the chocolates. A sharp intake of breath on the other end. Arsenic, Amy. They found arsenic in those chocolates. This is serious. I'm coming over right now. Until then, don't talk to anyone. An hour later, Jessica arrived, her professional demeanor taking over. Think back to past events, she said quietly. Has Patricia ever offered you food or drink, especially just to you? I thought hard. Now that you mention it, at the party after our wedding, she brought a special wine and poured it only in my glass. Afterward, I was terribly ill, couldn't even join the wedding photos. And then at Christmas, she gave me special cookies, just for me. After eating them, I was bedridden for 3 days, but I thought it was just food poisoning. Jessica was scribbling notes. Anything else? Any potential evidence? I don't know. But 2 weeks before Thomas was hospitalized, his work insurance changed. He said he'd enrolled in a better life insurance policy. Jessica's face tightened. Who are the beneficiaries? Me and Thomas's mother, I think. He said, if anything happens, both of you will be secure. Jessica stood up. Amy, this is clearly premeditated. You need to tell the police everything. That night, I told the detective all my suspicions. He nodded, promising to investigate. A week later, Thomas was discharged. He had lost weight and still looked unwell, but the strong medication had saved him. I took him home and quietly nursed him. Why would Mom do such a thing? He mumbled repeatedly, unable to accept the truth. Patricia and Vanessa had been temporarily released on bail. They tried to contact Thomas, but I blocked all calls. Thomas's recovery was my priority. 3 days after his discharge, I made a decision. I needed to tell Thomas the whole truth. When he was lying on the sofa, I sat beside him. Thomas, we need to go to your mother's house. He looked at me with surprised eyes. Why? To find evidence. You know this wasn't the first time, don't you? Thomas silently looked away. I don't know that Mom would really do such a thing. Trust me. I took his hand. For our future, we need to know the truth. The next day, though Thomas was still weak, he agreed to go with me. We chose a time when Patricia and Vanessa would be at their lawyer's office. Thomas had a spare key. What should we look for? Thomas asked, standing at the entrance. Anything unusual, especially her bedroom and desk. We quietly entered. Patricia's house, which we hadn't visited in a while, was as impeccably tidy as always. I went upstairs to her bedroom, Thomas following, though hesitantly. It feels like we're invading Mom's privacy, he murmured. Thomas, your mother tried to kill you, I said, my voice cold. Patricia's bedroom was elegantly decorated, family photos on the bedside table. I opened her closet, searching the upper shelves. Nothing. Let's check the desk. Patricia's desk was locked, but Thomas managed to pry open the drawers. Inside, various documents were neatly arranged. I quickly scanned them and stopped at one file. It was a copy of Thomas's new life insurance contract. The beneficiaries were indeed me and Patricia, but there was a small mark next to my name. A separate note read, "To be changed." Searching deeper, we found another shocking document. It was my own life insurance policy, one I didn't even know existed. And the beneficiaries? Patricia and Vanessa. This is my life insurance. When did you get this? I asked, my voice shaking. Thomas looked at the document, his face pale. I don't know. Mom said she would arrange everything. I covered my face with trembling hands. They'd been planning this from the very beginning. Then, hidden under a dresser, I found a small box. Inside were photos of me, my face with needles stuck into them, and tiny bottles of herbs and powders, all labeled. Thomas, look at this. I opened the laptop on her desk. It was password protected, but Thomas tried his mother's commonly used password, and it clicked open. The browser history was a horror show. Undetectable poisons, slow poisoning methods, complete guide to life insurance fraud. Thomas sat down, burying his head in his hands. I can't believe it. Why, Mom? Why would Mom? Suddenly, we heard the door open downstairs. We froze. What are you doing? Vanessa stood at the bedroom door, her face changing from surprise to fury. You have no right to be in here. We're keeping all of this as evidence, I said calmly. Evidence that you and your mother tried to kill me. Don't be ridiculous. Vanessa blustered, but her weariness showed. There's no evidence. Thomas slowly stood up. Vanessa, why? Why would you and Mom? Vanessa's expression twisted. Why? Because everything changed when you married her, she shrieked, a twisted mix of sadness and pure hatred on her face. Our plans. Our future. What do you mean? Mom never wanted you as family, Amy. She wanted Thomas's property and your insurance money. I held up the documents for Thomas to see. Look, your mother took out large loans in your name. They were in financial trouble. Thomas was speechless. Then, his voice low, shaking with a mix of anger and grief, he spoke. Get out, Vanessa. I never want to see you again. Thomas, you have to choose, she cried. Her or us, your real family. My real family, he roared, his voice shaking with fury. You mean the people who tried to kill my wife? Get out. Get out before I call the police myself. I stood beside Thomas, holding his hand. We stared at Vanessa, unmoving. This isn't over, Vanessa threatened as she stormed out. At that moment, Thomas's cell phone rang. He answered. After a few minutes, he looked at me, his expression changed. Mom has confessed everything. Autumn sunlight poured down on the marble steps of the courthouse. Amy and Thomas held hands as they left the building. The final verdict had been pronounced, ending the long and painful trial. Patricia Collins received a 5-year prison sentence for assault and conspiracy. The crime of deliberately preparing poison and repeatedly endangering Amy was severe. Vanessa, on the other hand, admitted her guilt as an accomplice and received a 3-year suspended sentence. Her lawyer's argument that she had acted under her mother's influence was accepted. It's over, I said, exhaling deeply. Thomas pulled my shoulder close. Yes. We can finally move forward. Getting into the car, Thomas began driving toward the suburbs. We had decided to establish a new home in a small town in Connecticut, far from Boston. It was a fitting place for a new beginning. We had visited Patricia once in prison. Her former dignity was gone, isolated from other inmates, mentally cornered. She momentarily brightened at seeing Thomas, but his cold gaze silenced her. She mumbled an apology to me, but her eyes showed no genuine regret. A letter of apology arrived from Vanessa. It said, "I want to look at my own life free from mother's control." I read it, but didn't write back. Forgiveness would take time. Perhaps I would never be able to forgive. Arriving at our new house, we carried in our belongings. The small, bright house symbolized our new life. "What do we do now?" Thomas asked, sitting in the living room. I smiled, sitting beside him. "First, I want to think about the interior design of this house. Then, get my web design company on track. And I need to find a new workplace," Thomas said. He had quit his financial company in Boston and applied to a small local company. The salary would be lower, but he was seeking a less stressful environment. That night, I shared surprising news with Thomas. "We're going to be a family of 3. Thomas's eyes shone with joy. "Really?"
When?
"In 6 months. I confirmed it with a test." He embraced me, contemplating that tiny new life. Our future wouldn't be easy, but we had overcome so much to get here. Life with our new family would surely be filled with a different kind of happiness. Lying in bed, I held Thomas's hand. "I'm so glad I met you. Not eating those chocolates was the best decision of my life," I whispered, tears in my eyes. Thomas chuckled softly, kissing my forehead. "And me eating them all? That, my love, was how we finally found the truth." In the gentle moonlight illuminating the room, we contemplated the future we would walk with our new life. It was the beginning of quiet happiness at the end of such hardship. Have you ever faced a betrayal like this? Or been caught in a toxic family dynamic that went too far? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear your thoughts.